J-Raff Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out! The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball!
Hockey, college football,
The Big Ten championship lies on a measurement.
Did he get it? No! He didn't get it! Penn State home!
They brought back the fun, they brought back the excitement, and now they've brought back a Big Ten championship. The Penn State Nittany Lions are Big Ten champions.
and the NFL.
1:16 to go, 41 yards. Cardona to Allen. Skowski. Six titles, 9 appearances. How about the drive to go close it out? You see Tom Brady. Enjoy him, folks. You're never, ever going to see it again. Not in our lifetime. Nope. So here's Zerline, part 1, 48 yards. That will end it. No good. The rain continues. Yes, it does. They've got to snap it one more time. The ball will end up in the hands of Tom Brady on the kneel down. And there it is. The dynasty continues.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me, my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I'll be honest, this whole weekend I was kind of dreading this show, and I am not anymore. I am not anymore.
I mean, I guess it's one of those things where, we're not going to bury the lead too much because you want to talk about the Eagles-Cowboys game, but and I don't want to harm your buzz or anything. But
No.
and we talked about this already off the show. The biggest takeaway here is a rivalry game victory at home, because we all know that there is no way that the winner of that game, no matter who it was going to win in the first round, right?
You never
They're not
know.
going to win a wild card game, right?
You never know. Now, I am not, I'll be honest, I am not set on the Eagles necessarily winning next week against the Giants and blowing it all.
Who does Dallas play next week? They play
The
the Redskins.
Redskins, yeah.
Okay. So both teams should win, you would think. But
would
man,
think.
could you imagine if one of them would? Well, I mean, really, Dallas has to win no matter what. to even
And
have
I'm
a
sure they'll put
chance.
both the games at 1 o'clock next week.
Yeah.
Like, usually they'll make sure that the games are at the same time if one relies on the other. You know,
Right.
like they won't let the Cowboys play 1 o'clock, the Eagles play 4. That would be the opposite of probably what it would be. But, you know, like they won't do that because they want both games to matter regardless of the outcome. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, it'll be interesting, and they certainly have a long way to go. But I do love the resolve, and we'll spend plenty of time talking about that. But
Yeah. So this is episode 289 of the
Crazy to
show.
think about,
289. You know, in a few short months, we'll be working on show 300. So we'll see if
wild.
we can do something special for that. I don't know. We'll see. It would be fun to get one of our past guests on, or maybe a new guest.
yeah, we'll have to see what we can do.
There was a couple of, not really housekeeping things, but something that I forgot to mention last week, and I immediately said something to Justin afterwards, but I do want to say that Navy beat Army, so we're all happy
Yes.
about that. Very, very
no,
pleased with the
definitely not
outcome.
all.
Navy beat Army. Someday, somehow, we are going to get to that game.
We got to make it happen.
It's going to happen one of these years. I know it's in Philadelphia again in 2020 for the 121st meeting between the two. It's going to go to Baltimore, though, in 2021.
Okay.
And then I think the years after have not been awarded yet. But generally, it's 2 or 3 years at Philly, then a year at Baltimore, or occasionally like the
Sometimes
Meadowlands.
they play the Meadowlands.
Yeah,
Occasionally, I think do they ever throw in San Diego?
if they have, it hasn't been recently.
Okay. Someone mentioned that to me, so I believe they may do San Diego every now and then, which is that's a cool one. But it's interesting now because San Diego doesn't have a pro team anymore, so
Right.
I don't really know if that stadium is still there.
I guess I always thought of San Diego as more of a port city, as more of a naval thing.
Oh, it certainly is.
Than Army.
Certainly is. Yes, but it's just it's a cool place to to have it and things like that. So. I've never been to an Army Navy game. I have been to an Army football game against Colgate at West Point, and it was awesome. It was really cool. But
So
that would have been like 1997 or something like that.
this was the 120th game. 89 of them have been in Philadelphia. So New York is actually next, but they haven't had one in New York since 1931.
Okay.
Then Baltimore, and the last was in 2016.
So I don't see San Diego there, so.
Now, I guess, okay, that's technically New York City. East Rutherford, New Jersey, hosted the game in 2002. And back early in the rivalries and actually during World War II, it was played in West Point and Annapolis. Princeton's hosted a game. Chicago won. Pasadena won. And Landover, Maryland won. And that one was in 2011. But it is going back to Baltimore very soon, like I just mentioned. And, we're hopeful to get to one of these years because I know not only do we want to go, just, because it's a cool rivalry, it's fun, it's college football at its best.
And everyone we've talked to that has gone to one has
says
said
it's one of the best things you ever
is
see. And
cool.
it's an all-day event. Like, you don't want to get there at kickoff.
No,
you want to be
no.
there for at least like the introductions, the
Right,
marching,
you want to see
like
them
the
march
cadets
on the field. You want to
coming
see
in,
all the stuff.
everything. You want to be involved. You want the flyover. You want all that. And if game day keeps going, which I think they've been there a lot of the last few years.
It's been like a standalone game most years, which
Right,
is
yeah.
awesome.
It's
it
the only
should
game
be,
on the schedule.
like it should be.
And then I think, later at night they do the Heisman, right? That's
Right,
that same
right, yep.
weekend. And it's just a great event. But your wife is an Army veteran,
Yeah.
so she has been wanting to go to the game. And my dad has been dying to go. My uncle, who we'll be talking about in a little bit, Rich from Massachusetts, I believe he's been to the game.
Okay.
I'm not sure how recently it was, but I thought he's mentioned before that he's been to the game, and
So,
he himself is a naval veteran.
When I went to the game at West Point, I had been given the choice: Army Navy game or a weekend at West Point, including a football game. So I took the weekend at West Point, and I don't regret that because it was an awesome experience, and we went and saw the Army hockey team play that night. Like, it was really cool, and got to go on around West Point, and there was a family that we were friends with, and their son was attending West Point at the time, so he took us around and like showed us all these crazy things, about told us about, like, at the top of the flagpole how there's all this stuff not hidden but like stored up there in case you're the last one, like just all these like things that go down in the West Point lore, I guess.
Right.
It's just incredible, so it's really cool.
Anton's been to a game at Army West Point.
It's really cool.
He was not able to see what do they call it officially? Is it the march or what?
I think so.
But they don't do it if it's raining.
Right.
And
right.
he was there, unfortunately, when it was raining, so they didn't do it. But yeah, I would love to. I would love to go to an Army game. I'd love to go to a Navy game, and then I want to go to the neutral Army Navy.
I've actually
game.
been on 3 of the military academies. I've been to West Point.
And you've been on Air Force too.
I've been to the Naval Academy, like coaching water polo. Was there a number of times on the Naval Academy campus. And what's interesting is the football field, I believe, is not on the base. It's across the street. I mean, it is right there. It's not like
it's
when we say off campus or not, but it's not exactly the same as like most times when you're talking about that.
It's more pit-like.
And right, yeah.
Well, actually, that's way worse.
No, they get way more people and are much better.
Yeah.
And while I root against Navy this one week, I usually do not root against them. Air Force I've been to a couple of times too with my sister living in Colorado, and that one's really cool as well. So.
I do have to mention, and I didn't mention it last week because we didn't talk college football. We went right to NFL, and then I immediately regretted when we finished not talking Army Navy. But now that we're talking college football, it does remind me that from our show 2 weeks ago when we were making fun of Pitt and kind of a few digs at Temple, one of our listeners that has been listening pretty regularly. He doesn't voice too much to me other than when I see him a few times a year. And he is at family events. And one of them, I think I may be seeing him in just 2 days. He messaged me and he said, "You're killing me, Joe and Justin, about Temple," because he is a huge Temple supporter, and I apologize, Adam, to not that Adam, not Adam, basketball Adam. This is just me saying I'm sorry if we are negative about your Temple Owls, but I remember what it was because we were like, who did Memphis lose to?
Right.
And we looked and we were like, oh. And actually, that led to a good conversation with him. We talked about Temple and Memphis and their team, and he was trying to just calm us down, which I forgot to tell you last week, but just that he's saying Penn State shouldn't have a problem. And I immediately was like, but that's the inherent problem, is they shouldn't have a problem, but if they do, it's a big problem.
Right. See, and my thing is, and it's funny because I go against this whenever I watch the other games. Like if Georgia loses to whoever they're playing, I forget who they're playing, but if they lose to whoever they're playing, and people are like, well, Georgia didn't have the motivation, I'll be like, no way, that SEC team lost.
Yeah.
But if Penn State loses, I'm going to be like, well, they just weren't up for the game.
just
Like,
weren't ready
and
for
while
it,
that's unacceptable, like that's a reality,
Yeah.
Whereas I'm worried about that happening. I hope it doesn't because it happened last year, but you never know.
So, yeah, I just did want to mention that as we talk a little college football here at the start of the show. Because there are, believe it or not, there are people that went to Pitt that I like. I mean, it's crazy.
A couple of them, right?
It's few and far between, but there's a few there. Same thing with Temple.
I look at it as like you must they must have a lot in the positive column for you to overcome the negative column of attending Pitt.
Yeah.
Like in your eyes, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I feel like they must be pretty good people.
Yeah.
In order to overcome.
You got to be to overcome the Pitt gene. I mean, you got to be. I mean, I see it every year. High school Wilson players that end up going to Pitt. Like I believe Anthony Coper's going there this year, and it's just like, do you know what, Anthony? I liked you. You know what? You weren't a kid that I coached, so. When you,
I don't know where I failed
kid,
you, but
I don't get to meet you until you're at least a sophomore, and if you're not contributing, it's hard for me to find those guys until later. So it's usually a junior or even senior that I finally get to know you better, and then you go to Pitt, and it's just like, why did I waste my time? But no, we do it mostly in jest, and it's all in good fun, and of course it's mostly schools that generally are less favorable when it comes to our Penn State fandom. That are you reading the email right
I am.
now?
I'm sorry.
So we'll wrap up the college football tangent at the beginning, and we'll get to the NFL. We already mentioned Eagles, Cowboys, and we'll get to that. But we're going to start the show with an email that we got from my Uncle Rich, the Patriots fan. He sent it to me earlier today, and I have not read it yet. We were very busy. We went on a Santa train today down in Strasburg and got home much later than we anticipated, and I saw that he had an email, and I want to make sure that we get to it. And Justin is already reading it, so I'm going to dive right in and see. He's already been laughing, so this should be a good one. So here on the Maze Sandwich Shop email inbox, this one coming from my Uncle Rich in Massachusetts. So he starts, Merry Christmas to the boys of Joe Maze and J-Raff Show. My Christmas present to you is to watch the Patriots in the playoffs once again. It gives you something to rally around and root against. So how are your teams, Miami and Philly, doing? That's rhetorical, I'm sure. Talking about hating a team, maybe too strong of a word, but I do know how you feel. And I feel sorry for you two having to dislike so many teams. Patriots, Ohio State, probably Alabama. I had the same feeling about those college teams. Well, it's good we agree on something.
Yes.
Joey, it's nice that you can still get a shirt to show the highlight of your entire season. Yes, the Miami Miracle, especially went well with those pajama bottoms you were wearing. Hey, you got to get in the spirit of the season, and I will show my pajama bottoms this week
quick
as well.
Interjection, and I immediately thought of you. Mike Golick Jr. was making the hard push this week for November 1st. Is the start of Christmas season.
Right.
I know you're on board. Here's where I want. He says until the Super Bowl. He said there is no need. He said there is no need to stop.
Right.
He's like, let Christmas be the middle of the season, not the end of the season.
I can get
and
on
I was
board
like,
with that.
this will probably be a new idea to Joey, but I'm not sure that it's something that you're willing to just throw away as a ridiculous idea. I
don't toss that one aside at all. That's an interesting one because the thing that bothers me the most about December 26th is the holiday stations that have literally been playing the music since radio, like regular broadcast radio, back in the 1940s when people still listened to that. They start in like mid-November ish, which I only caught on when I moved back to this area. Like I didn't know that was a thing, but Sirius starts streaming it like the day. Well, actually, the Hallmark Channel radio station started like the day that their movie started, which was 5 days before Halloween. So like, there's been Christmas music possibilities since before Halloween. Then the main stations that they come out with every year, like Holly and Holiday Traditions, I think start on November 1st, or maybe it's the first Friday in November, something like that. So, I mean, we've been playing that music since early November. But then on December 26th, like all of it like disappears, and it's just like literally the day after Christmas, and then just like, nope, we're moving on to the next thing. And I know the joke is always at like shopping centers and grocery stores where in August it's Halloween, in September it's Thanksgiving, in October it's Christmas. Well, then in December it's Valentine's Day.
Yep.
And it's just kind of like we're a little shifted here. We need to adjust a little bit better because holidays haven't
gone with leap years.
Right.
Like, and they just
started. Yeah. Like I'm all about, you want Halloween, like, cause I know there's some people Halloween's their favorite holiday of the year.
Which you do your thing.
Right.
It's not me at all.
No,
like,
it's fine.
It's fine. But
it's
like,
fun seeing kids enjoy it.
Yes. I'm more take it or leave it though. Like
but like my thing is Halloween, Thanksgiving, that can all kind of get rolled into September. Like you could start selling Halloween and Thanksgiving stuff September 1st for all I care. Like I know people count down the days, and I'm not a huge coffee person, so like pumpkin spice doesn't mean much to me.
Right.
But like when it comes out at like the end of August, people go nuts.
Oh yeah.
And I only am excited about it because I know what's coming around the corner. As soon as that calendar turns to September 1st, right. I'm like, this is the greatest time of the year. Because
September is pretty awesome.
The last 4 months of the year are by far the best.
October
is an incredible month, and we've talked about how incredible October is. And there are a lot of people that love Halloween. Right. I'm in the camp where, I mean, as much as I'm a Christmas guy, Thanksgiving is probably my favorite holiday, and that is because it probably is the kickoff to Christmas season. But I get time off of work, great food. I love that meal. Like, and then I get leftovers of it later.
And it's like
generally
peak football.
Right, peak football. I get 3 pro games. They have college games like the night before, the day of, the next day, that whole weekend. Right. And usually, especially growing up, we got to play football. Right. It was like, what's not to enjoy?
And you've got fall weather, usually not winter weather yet, but like usually solid fall weather. Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Right.
And Adam's always the one that gives me the crap about the Christmas stuff. Like, he's like, December 1st is like, nothing before that. And it's like, you're forgetting about Thanksgiving. I'm like, and this is other Adam, not Adam Temple Owl Adam. This is Adam College Basketball Adam. He's like, you're missing the best holiday. I'm like, I'm not missing it. I'm just enjoying other holidays around it. And then when Thanksgiving comes, it's bam, full on Christmas that next day. Black Friday is Christmas. And we don't do the shopping. I don't do the Black Friday shopping stuff. But, like, that is full on. Christmas is here, ready to go. And Kelly's come around to the idea and is completely on board, where sometimes she's jumping at the bit for it to get here before I am. The girls are certainly there. We ended up putting the tree up before Thanksgiving this year because they were asking, like, basically when Halloween was over, like, when are we putting the tree up? And I was just like, look, I get it, but let's try to wait a little bit. We ended up putting up, I think, the weekend before Thanksgiving this year, which I was like, sure, why not?
But you know what? Thanksgiving was as late as it could possibly be this year. So it was almost the same as what it would be other years.
Well, I said last year to Kelly, I was like, we get an extra week of Christmas this year because Thanksgiving is the earliest it can be. But I said next year's the latest it can be.
Right. I like it being the latest it can be.
Well, and last year was good because of our vacation, we undecorated before New Year's Day, which is not the norm for us. Like we don't leave it up till the Super Bowl, as has spurred this conversation, but we usually, like, the first weekend in January, depending on when it fell with New Year's, that's when we would start to take down the Christmas stuff. But last year and probably this year, it'll be down on or around New Year's because of the vacations.
Life. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm interested. I'm gonna subscribe to the Mike Golick Jr. newsletter and see if we can get some support for this. I just worry about it ruining it by going on that long. That's a long time.
Right. I know you are not a big ESPN listener.
Yeah, not for a while.
But however, I feel like Mike Golick Jr.
I do follow him.
Right, I feel like he would bring a lot to, he would fit in our everyday conversations that we decided to start recording. That's basically.
I think that's it. Well, maybe we can get him on for episode 300.
Hey, I'll see what we can do.
All right,
we can pay him in Reese's trees from Christmas because he eats them by
his thing?
The caseload. Yes,
sweet. So. I'm on board there. And I say all the time, whether it comes to those mass manufactured brownies, the iced brownies you can get, or peanut butter cups and the variety of shapes they come in, the shapes are better than the traditional.
Yes.
Like if you just give me one of those Cosmo brownies or whatever, no. You give me the Christmas tree or the heart, the Valentine heart, or like the peanut butter cups. You give me an egg, you give me a pumpkin, you give me a Christmas tree, you give me a heart. Like, I don't want the traditional cups. I want the shapes. Give me the shapes. The best thing that ever happened in candy is when Cadbury Cream Eggs, they debuted the Halloween version. So then I could get them twice a year. And of course the Halloween version had, instead of the orange middle to make it look somewhat like an egg, it was a green tint because Halloween, everything's got to be green or purple or orange. So
now if they could make it like Ecto Cooler flavor with the green,
an Ecto Cooler Renaissance would be great. If they could come up with candy for it, that'd be even better. And if there's a year for it to happen, it is 2020, as Ghostbusters 3 hits theaters, not the official title, but that's essentially what it is. And I'm very excited for it. I messaged Brian and Brent today, who's going to be joining me for a Tangents podcast in a few days to talk about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. I messaged them a picture of a birthday gift I got and said, I'm all about Star Wars right now. I'm looking forward to talking about it with you guys, but 2020 is the year of Ghostbusters, and this jacket here was this vintage Ghostbusters 2 jacket that I got.
Nice.
I just said I'm looking forward to 2020, and July 10th can't come here soon enough, so yeah, here we go. But anyway, so for sports talk, football, we're in the middle of my uncle's email. So back to the May Sandwich Shop email inbox here. Remember, we finished with him making fun of my Christmas pajama pants, which are the greatest thing in the world. I have 4 pair and rotate them through all season long, which is apparently now November 1st through the beginning of February. I had the Miami Miracle shirt on last week, which is awesome, and I'm going to celebrate things like that because I will never forget it, and I will share it every single year. It pops up on my timeline as something that happened in the past. But Rich continues here with his email saying, anyway, with listening to the Patriots Cheaters show, I mean, we can come up with a better name because, I mean, that kind of makes it sound like we're the cheaters when we want everyone to make sure they know that the Patriots are the cheaters. He says,
it's a good starting point.
It's a jumping off point. We'll talk about it. I have a couple of comments. Yes, Spygate was a real thing and we paid for it. Belichick pushed the rules. Pushed the rules. Deflategate was proved to be nothing, but we still paid for it. I don't know that that's good. I mean, that might be the going discussion up in New England, but I'm not sure that's what the rest of the country thinks. This latest gate, I guess it should be called Stupidity Gate, which we believe is nothing, still puts us in a bad light. Nobody will ever believe the Patriots were innocent. And that's the point, though, that most of us are saying. If you get caught this many times, like, it's not fool me 17 times. Like,
right. Fool me once, fool me twice, fool me for 2 decades.
But here's a little math for you. Okay, so we're going to a math problem. Maybe do I need to wake Natalie up? Does she need to come down here and help us with this? She's got the Common Core down. All right, 2 gates go into 6 Super Bowls 3 times or 4 wins with no gate. And if you want to count the latest gate, we haven't won the Super Bowl yet this year. let's just keep it at we haven't won the Super Bowl this year. Let's not put the yet in. One last thing from the beginning of the year. Joe picked the Colts to win the Super Bowl over the Rams. Oh, man. Both gone. Yeah, that's unfortunate. In my defense, Andrew Luck was a member of the Colts at that time. And until about 3 weeks ago, imagine what they would be doing with Andrew Luck. Until Marlon Mack got injured.
Well, and when Brissett sprained his MCL. And he's been trying to play through it, but he hasn't been the same.
Yeah, so that's a you're familiar with this. That's an asterisk on our picks.
Yes.
So and Rich knows all too well about asterisks. So
if we want to give the benefit of the doubt,
right? Exactly. So apparently Joe picked the Colts to win the Super Bowl over the Rams. Both gone. I guess that's technically accurate now, unfortunately. Although I did see a thing how the Raiders can still make the playoffs. They needed a 10-game parlay, and they're 5 for 5 at the moment, with 5 more to go next week. So that's interesting.
So another guy on ESPN Radio, Jason Fitz, is a diehard Raiders fan, and he called it that everything's going to happen, but he thought the Raiders would lose to the Chargers today.
Oh, well, maybe everything will happen next week, but the Raiders will lose to Denver, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it is Denver because
most of them are interdivision.
I'm going to be out there, so I checked to see how much tickets are.
Dude, that'd be awesome. Justin picked his Eagles over the Colts, both almost gone.
Almost. With an asterisk.
And I picked my Patriots over the Saints, both still alive.
I have to
sticking your neck out there, Rich.
I have to give him credit. His picks do look the best by a long shot.
Not gonna lie. Yeah. Now the Tom Brady rumors up here are Tom retiring, Tom and Josh McDaniels going to L.A. Chargers. That's an
interesting one.
I haven't heard that one. I could say more, but I don't go on and on about the Patriots missing Gronk, Antonio Brown, and Josh Gordon, or about how the refs missed so many calls against the Chiefs, like the quick whistle or the Harry staying in bounds but called out. It happens to all of the teams. I should be home to listen tonight. Oh, good. I haven't heard anything yet. I mean, I don't have the comments up, so maybe there are people just pounding away. Probably one being like, talk about sports. 2, Christmas is only a few days a year. And 3, is Rich from Massachusetts your only listener? That's probably what everyone's saying. No, because Adam, the Temple Owl fan, is a listener because he messaged me within hours of me posting the show 2 weeks ago. So
until we keep railing on
until
Temple.
we start making fun of Temple more and more and more. So still Merry Christmas to you and your families. I like how he just throws that in at the end. It's like, just still Merry Christmas.
It's easy to be the bigger guy when your team wins all the time.
Right, yeah. Well, in 8 days from now, it will have been 19 years since the Dolphins last won a playoff game. 19 years in 8 days. And I mean, we're guaranteed to hit that mark.
Right. They're not going to win one in the next 8 days.
Right. Spoiler, it's not happening. They're not going to win a game. So they have yet to win a playoff game. It's been nearly 2 decades since they've won a playoff game. Nearly 2 decades.
They're going to have guys on the team that weren't born the last time they won.
They very well may already. Right. And if not, but next time it happens, they will. So
now, that being said, we've talked many times. Brian Flores appears to be the absolute right hire.
I'm not like,
and they are poised to take a haul the next few years in the. And the key is when you take a haul in the draft, you can also then get free agents to fill in the other pieces because you have all this cap room.
Right.
They're set up to do something special down there, and the timing may be right.
I'm hoping so. It's the Patriots dynasty is hopefully ending, and
we say
this time for real. This time
on Saturday.
Unfortunately, they did. Yes,
I'm all for that for Brady going to the Chargers and.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Exactly.
That one has very little impact on me whatsoever. I mean, Dolphins play the Chargers more than the Eagles will, but
right.
I don't know. So I assume Josh McDaniels going there means he's the new head coach.
Yeah, I would.
I guess if I thought the Chargers were going to get rid of their coach, they might have done it already. It's Anthony Lynn, right?
Right.
I feel like maybe they're giving him another year. Although
here's the thing:
if Philip Rivers is going, we probably would be time to start fresh, new coach, new quarterback.
But all right, so what do you think has to happen for Tom to be done in New England? And I think it would mean they have to lose in their first, well, if they end up in a wild card round, if they end up having to play, which I don't know the scenario, but if they ended up having to play in the first round, then, and I think as long as they beat the Dolphins, they get a bye.
Yeah, well, I already heard Belichick talking about it's on to Miami. We got to beat Miami.
Right,
I
because
hope
of
they
the bye.
don't. I hope
Because
they
of the bye.
lose that game. How great would that be? That would make my season.
And then they have to play in the wild card weekend. But, anything short of like losing in the divisional round and Brady looking bad, I don't know that he's done in New England.
Right.
Like I want him to be, but I don't. Do you think New England's like, oh yeah, let's move on? Because I don't think they have the next guy on their roster right now. So
Right.
We'll see. But yeah, it could be interesting. New England did look good. New England looked better on Saturday, but that being said, the Bills kind of looked like what they've looked like most of the year. The defense was pretty strong, but the offense was hit or miss. The offense only had 3 big plays, and that's really all they did.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll see. But
All right, so let's go through a few of these games and just touch on a few things. So
I thought what sums up. Sorry, if we start with Texans Buccaneers.
no,
from
we'll start
yesterday.
with
Okay, well, I'm going to make this comment
Saturday
anyway because I
games.
thought it was great.
Okay.
It said Jameis Winston plays like he was forced to start himself and the opposing defense in fantasy football every week.
That is great. Actually, yeah, that was the Saturday game, so we'll start with that. Yeah, so Texans Buccaneers. The thing that surprised me the most about this game is that I was completely blindsided by the fact that the Buccaneers could possibly have a winning season this year.
Yeah, they
I
had
didn't
won 4 in a
realize
row.
They were 7-7.
Yeah, they had won 4 in a row.
I was that one caught me off guard, completely off guard. Now they lost to the Texans.
I think
who
they
are
play
now
the
at
Saints next
double-digit
week.
wins, and that game is going to be important for the Saints for seeding purposes.
Yes.
So I fully expect Tampa Bay to finish 7-9. But I mean, at times people thought they were an awful team, and yeah, like you said, Winston could throw 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions every game. I'm not sure how many games you're going to win like that, but
That's the thing. Like, and what do you do? I don't think they know what they're going to do.
But Texans 10-5. They've now clinched that division, haven't
they won the
because
division.
the Titans losing to the Saints today.
Yep.
But the Titans.
Actually, I think they clinched before that.
Oh,
Because
really?
the Titans and Steelers games, because of the weird way that wild cards are figured out,
because
they
it's not
do
head to head,
not
it's conference
right.
play.
They do not. Neither game mattered.
Oh, really?
That's why Derrick Henry sat today, because the Titans' outcome did not matter. Steelers' outcome did not matter. Their outcomes next week matter, but they don't play each other. It's weird, but neither game mattered today for those teams.
Interesting. Well, I didn't realize Derrick Henry didn't play today because the Titans actually hung with the Saints. Now
They
it
jumped
was in
up,
Tennessee,
and then the
they
Saints-
were probably mad because they lost last
Right.
week. But still, like that showed me that Tennessee is a team that, hey, the right things happen. And you talk about playoff
be honest,
football.
if you're-
having Derrick Henry in your backfield, not a negative.
If you're the 3 seed in the AFC, who's that going to be? That's probably going to be the Chiefs.
probably going to be Kansas City.
Right. If you're the Chiefs, would you rather play the Steelers or would you rather play the Titans?
Probably Pittsburgh. I mean, after the
Probably
way they've
Pittsburgh.
looked the last
way
couple
the offenses
weeks.
looked the last couple weeks,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and who the heck know what's going to happen at quarterback now?
Right.
Because
They-
they pulled Hodges for
then they
Rudolph,
had to
right?
put him
And then they
back
had to put
in.
him back in because
Yeah.
Rudolph got hurt. So yeah, right now you would prefer to play Pittsburgh than Tennessee, but Tennessee is now the 6th seed in the playoffs despite their loss the last 2 weeks. So Texans beat the Buccaneers 23-20. I'm happy for Bill O'Brien and the Houston program. Bills Patriots. This one stung. I thought Buffalo was going to get the win. They were up 17-13.
Yeah,
At some
but
point,
like
17-10.
I was a full on I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing here. I'm not at all surprised. I thought the Bills would get it here. However, like this is kind of the thought I had all week. Like there's a decent chance, there's a chance they could face again. Like I shouldn't say a good chance because you need to win some games and they could end up on different sides and all that stuff. But if the Bills are going to beat them, I think they're capable of beating the Patriots 1 out of 3 times.
Right, I'd
You
rather
want
be in
that
the
one to be
playoffs.
in the playoffs, right?
Absolutely.
Not in
Absolutely.
because you're not going to beat the Patriots in Foxborough twice. You know,
Right.
that's not going to happen. So, yeah, it was definitely one of those. You only have to beat them once, and if you beat them the next time, if you get another shot at them and you get to beat them again, or you get to beat them one time, you want it to be that one.
Yeah. It's tough to beat a team 3 times too. So like, I mean, I know it happens, but it's tough to do. So,
when we look at Rams and Niners, man,
that was a back and forth game.
yeah, and Robbie Gould again, coming through clutch here, kick the game winner. But man, Jalen Ramsey got burned. Now, he quickly, when they asked about it, he threw whoever the safety was under the bus. So
of
fast.
course he did.
Now, I don't know that he was wrong. Like, I don't.
Right,
I think
that's one of
he was
those
right.
things that it could be very true,
Right.
but
However, like, that's just not the best.
generally a
approach, probably.
professional doesn't act that way. You let the coaches know. Well, like, you don't let the coaches know. Like, you don't have to tell people what went wrong.
Right.
The coaches know.
But yeah. So the Niners are interesting because I feel like they can be among the best, right? They can be really good. But they also at times just have struggled a little bit.
Yeah. To me they haven't been that good. I mean, the loss at home to Atlanta last week, the Rams are incredibly inconsistent, as you can tell by their record and what they've done now the last few weeks.
Yeah, I wish this
big
Rams
wins,
team,
big losses.
This team though, like they were right in this. I wish this Rams team would have shown up last week when they
laid an egg.
Didn't show up against Dallas.
So, we talked about last week. I think we ended up. Did we end up with? Was it 9 or 10? How many teams did we say we think could make the Super Bowl? Yeah, I think it was 9 teams, and I still think it could be San Francisco, but I don't think they're a team that I would say has a chance to win the Super Bowl. And maybe that's crazy to some people, sitting at 12-3 and how dominant they looked at time. But that was like 6 weeks ago.
Right.
Like they started 8-0, they're now 4-3.
Right.
And with a couple bad losses.
This Rams offense that put up nothing against the
just
Cowboys.
scored 31.
Scored 31. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm
on
sorry.
On a short week where they were away because they played in
and looked
in
awful
Dallas,
and could have just thrown in the towel because I think Minnesota had clinched the spot that the Rams were playing for.
With the Rams losing,
Thursday.
First,
okay,
yeah.
okay, so they were still playing.
They beat them to it because the Vikings don't play till Monday.
Right. So, they just are not impressive to me right now. They really, really aren't.
So if we go to the next game, this is interesting because I feel like one team, while doesn't really have what it takes, the Broncos, they're still playing hard, whereas the Lions.
Well, see, and the Lions jumped out to like a 10-0 lead in this game.
Right, but the Lions, man.
Is Patricia done?
I think they expressed confidence in him. He's got to be gone. Like,
see, the problem I have here is they started the season decently.
They did.
Like they were playing
and
good
Stafford
teams.
Then
tough.
had the fractured back, and they wouldn't let him play through it.
Yeah. So I don't know. To me, but I'm always very. I mean, to think 2.5 seasons is conservative, but apparently it is when it comes to coaching hires, both in college and for the pros. In the NFL, I want the guy to at least have part of a third season.
And
at least.
You
like,
can
I
make
think 40 games total.
If I'm going to make that argument about the Lions, I also say, like, well, what's our next step? And if our next step is we still think we can get it done with Matt Patricia and Matt Stafford and all those guys, then, like, we need to keep it together and try and make that big leap next year. Like, that we're not as far off as it appears. And that's okay.
They're one of those teams that I think can do it.
I agree. If they add the right pieces in there, I think they certainly could. The problem is, do you think the Vikings take a big step back next year? I don't know. Do the I'm not sold on the Packers. The Packers are the team that I'm not sold on because I think the Bears could rebound next year. And the Bears, interesting tonight. I think they lose to Kansas City, but like I don't think the Bears are as bad as they have been this year. Certainly some uncertainty there, but certainly uncertainty.
I don't know. We'll see. What do you make of Denver? Is Drew Lock their guy?
I think Drew Lock is the guy.
Okay.
I like Drew Lock. I think he should get a shot there.
They need more talent offense or more defense?
Yes, I think they need more talent on offense. I mean, Drew Lock has been getting it done somewhat, relatively speaking, for them this season. He's been getting it done after they traded away their best wide receiver, so...
Manuel Sanders.
Yeah.
So add someone to go with Cortland Sutton. They
Start adding young guys on defense, too, though.
They have a decent running back tandem in Philip
Right.
Lindsay.
And I think their defense is like top 10 in yards and scoring. Like, you just don't know because their offense was anemic to start the year.
Right. I mean, really, they could, if a few games bounce their way, they could be sitting at 9-6 instead of 6-9.
Right.
And challenging for a playoff spot. So
think about it. The Chargers weren't as good as we thought they would be this year, but the Raiders were a heck of a lot better than we thought they'd be this year. Right. And Kansas City is middle of the road, but I say middle of the road, middle of the road, and still right there, So,
but I think both these teams, Detroit and Denver, could both have better years in 2020. Raiders, Chargers, finishing up the AFC West. Oakland won the game today, as I mentioned earlier, because of that 10-game parlay, 5 games each week. Everything for the Raiders to make the playoffs happened this week, 5 for 5. So it's going to go into Week 17 with the chance. And honestly, I should see if I can pull up the tweet of the guy who sent out what needed to happen. He said, very coincidental that they're becoming the Las Vegas Raiders next year because they could be hitting on a 10-game parlay spread out over 2 weeks to make the playoffs. And I looked at the 5 games and what needs to happen next week.
It's not
the
crazy.
First 3 that I looked at weren't that crazy. So let me see if I can pull it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Chargers, a lost season for them for sure. Maybe Anthony Lynn is going to get the boot. I guess it could
Which
even
is crazy
happen
because last
soon.
year everybody was talking about how great he was, but I feel like Phillip Rivers and the offense have been bad this year. Bad.
At times though,
yeah,
they've just been so inconsistent.
But here's the thing: when your quarterback is that old and you have that bad of a year, do you just say, "Oh, let's run it back. Let's see if we can capture magic again with these guys"? I don't think that's going to happen. And so, all right, we're making the quarterback change. If we make the quarterback change, are we making the coaching change?
Right. Let me see if I can pull this up because I think I retweeted it. Just not sure which account I retweeted it from. It must have been from my regular account, not my burner account. See if I pull it up.
Yeah, so the Chargers, it's going to be interesting what happens here at the end.
Here we go. So the Raiders can still make the playoffs, and here's how. If all of these teams win in Week 16, Raiders over Chargers, Ravens over Browns, Jets over Steelers, that was probably a big one.
That was the big one.
Saints over Titans, and Colts over Panthers. So,
Colts, I'd say, was a big one, too.
Yeah, of those 5, the only one that I think was difficult, other than you winning your own game, was Jets over Steelers.
Yes.
Now, next week, Week 17, this is what Oakland needs for Oakland to make the playoffs. Obviously, the Raiders need to beat the Broncos.
Yeah.
Not going to be
Denver.
easy because it's in Denver, and Denver is playing better recently compared to the way the Raiders were until today. Browns beat the Bengals.
Right. And the Bengals have locked up being the worst team. The Browns...
I mean, this is one that I could see going wrong for the Raiders, but you got to think the Browns are better than the Bengals. Right. Ravens beating Steelers. Now, this is tough because it matters for Pittsburgh. Does it matter for Baltimore?
Except, do you play to... You already have the bye. You already have home field.
Do you play to keep Pittsburgh out?
Play to keep Pittsburgh out.
So
I don't think you do.
If it wasn't Week 17, that's, I think, a Baltimore
I don't
win.
think you do because if I'm Baltimore, I'm not afraid of Pittsburgh.
Right.
I'm not afraid of them. Especially them coming to Baltimore.
They should not play Robert Griffin. They should play Trace McSorley. Just putting that out there. Next, Houston beating Tennessee. Now, Houston won the division, and I don't think they can catch Kansas City for the 3 seed, can they?
Maybe if the Bears upset them tonight. Okay. But I don't know.
But that's kind of a toss-up to me. I could see either team winning that. But you think Houston is, through the course of the first 15 games, is the better team.
Yeah.
So Raiders win. That may be the toughest one so far, beating the Broncos. Cleveland is better than Cincinnati. Baltimore is better than Pittsburgh. Houston's better than Tennessee. Now the last one, Colts Jaguars. Colts must win. The Colts are better than Jacksonville.
Yeah. So there is a chance.
It's not crazy. So
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
nuts. That's nuts.
Yeah, so I saw that
And
today,
to
and it
be
just was
fair,
interesting
they're
to me.
much better. Even if they don't make it, they did much better this year than I thought.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think we were talking about probably 5 wins
Yeah,
for him. So, yeah. So kudos to Gruden and the Raiders, soon to be bound for Las Vegas. A couple of these games we're going to just run through really quickly. Jaguars Falcons game made no difference really. I'm happy to see Atlanta rebounding a bit. I like Dan Quinn. I've come around on Matt Ryan.
Do you think
I don't have
Dan
anything
Quinn's done
against the
enough
Falcons?
to save his job?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, they started the season 1-7 or something like that.
Yeah.
1-6 maybe, 5-3 in the last 8. So do you hang your hat on? Okay, they just had some bad luck, some injuries, just a couple issues that they corrected, and this is the
could
team
be finishing third in the division.
And and same thing like with Denver. If you go back and just say they split the early season, they could be sitting at 9-6 and challenging for a playoff spot.
Yeah, team the Eagles lost to, or none of this stuff would have mattered. Them and the Lions.
Right. So, Falcons over Jaguars 24-12, and the Falcons just beat 49ers last week. Ravens beat the Browns today 31-15.
Falcons also beat the Saints, didn't they?
Yeah, in New Orleans.
So they beat the Saints.
And San Francisco.
They beat the Saints. They beat the Eagles.
Did they beat Green Bay too?
I don't know. That would be wild.
Crazy would that be to
That'd be
beat
wild.
all the division champs, possible division champs, and not make the playoffs?
And not be close to the playoffs.
Yeah,
you know?
well, I mean, honestly, if they win next week and finish 7-9, how far away are they? I guess
From
the
the wild
wild
card,
card
they're pretty
teams,
far,
yeah.
yeah.
So the Ravens are 13-2, beating the Browns. They're avenging their one loss from earlier this year, losing to Cleveland early in the season. Ravens win 31-15. We mentioned already Panthers, Colts, Indianapolis winning
Colts look
big,
really
38-6. Maybe Indianapolis coming back around, but
Talk
it's going to
about
be too little, too late.
McCaffrey is having an MVP type statistical season and isn't going to be anywhere near it because the team is terrible.
The team is not
and,
good.
And I am all for you don't need to be the best player on the best team to win the MVP. That's my opinion. However, I generally
Where would they be without him? That's my argument.
Yeah, but see, my argument is they only have 5 wins. I think they probably still have at least 3 wins or 4 wins without him, just because I don't think they're a 1 or 2 win team.
Right.
Like, if they were sitting at 8 or 9 wins, out of the playoffs but still solid, then I think it's a stronger argument. But they're a bad football team, and man, all that Cam Newton's garbage talk, we need to move on, and they may still need to move on, but I think
the idea that's kind of
was not
separate now.
Right. I think it wasn't like, oh, we've got a better guy on the roster right now.
You thought at one time it
right
looked that way.
Right now, you don't. I'm not saying he won't be, but right now, no, he's not better than Cam Newton right now.
Well, he wasn't ever. That was crazy.
Right.
Not to say that Kyle Allen wasn't playing well.
No, exactly.
But it's it's come back to earth. It's the way it works out in the NFL. Bengals Dolphins. This one was a kind of a crazy game. Miami was up big. Yeah. And they gave up 16 points in the final 32 seconds.
In overtime, they get the ball. They should just run it out the back of their end zone. Can you imagine the uproar that would cause?
Right. Well, I mean, that would be the only case all year where it actually would prove Miami was tanking, because despite them now winning 4 games, there are still people accusing the Dolphins of tanking at 4 wins and probably picking quite possibly outside of the top 5.
If this isn't ironic that the best team in football over 2 decades cheats all the time, and yet the team that should cheat to get better
is supposedly cheating to get the better
supposedly
pick.
Cheating is bad.
Now won 4 games and 4 of their last 7 or something like that, right? Weren't they 0-8?
Yeah.
So they're now 4-3, and and early in the year they could have beat Washington. They gambled on a 2-point play. Maybe that's a team that's like, this is a lost season. What does it matter? Right. They could have won that game.
I remember watching it and I was like, I love that they went for 2. Why not? Why not?
Right. Well, that's what I was saying. I was like, what's the difference between 5 and 0-6 or 1-5 and 0-6 or whatever it was? I can always hang my hat that they beat the Eagles this year. That will forever be okay with me.
I am so glad I did not go to that game. This summer, I was seriously debating going down that weekend, because we have school on that Monday, and I was thinking of going down and going to that game. I am so glad I did not do that.
But Miami gave up 16 points in 32 seconds
to the Bengals.
Yeah. So there's obviously lots of issues down there. But
all that to then go down and win in overtime.
yeah, and then they won in overtime. Literally the last play of overtime, too. Jason Sanders kicked a field goal with no time left. Imagine tying that game. Yeah, so Miami's now 4-11, and they're sitting at 4th or 5th, I think, in the draft order. But they're going to lose next week to New England.
But
you
they
would think.
also have 3 first-round picks.
They do have
They'll
3 first.
be fine.
But that's why I wanted Houston and Pittsburgh to keep losing. So Pittsburgh losing is actually good for me. I need Pittsburgh to lose. I need that pick to be like 18-22 or whatever, or 18-20 instead of 24, 25, 26, which is where Houston's going to end up being. So, speaking of the Steelers, they lost today, 2 weeks in a row now. This time to the Jets.
The Steelers are a team where I look at it, I'm like, how are they 8-7? Like, first of all, Mike Tomlin.
Up until the Buffalo game last week when they were 8-5 and had a chance for winning 10 or 11 games, you were thinking a Coach of the Year candidate.
Right. But on the other side of that, you watch Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges play, and you're like, maybe this is strengthening his case for a Coach of the Year. Like,
So apparently,
he's winning games with a guy whose nickname is Duck. Right. Like,
but on the other side of the field, the Jets winning 6 games for the first time since 2015 is apparently a milestone that we're awarding.
Adam Gase, wonder
but
kid.
just remember 3 weeks ago, everyone was ready to run him and everyone out of town up there. But apparently beating a shorthanded Steelers team is cause for celebration now, which is fine. Get the Jets to 7-9 because they're not good.
Right.
They're going to be picking in the middle of the first round.
And he's secured his job. Dude,
Yeah,
that is
I'm
a good
golden.
thing.
This is a very good thing. I mentioned earlier, Saints Titans was a good game in Tennessee. Justin said they were sitting a few guys because it didn't matter. Saints end up getting the win, 38-28. Giants Redskins in a game that mattered for draft order only.
Saquon went off.
Barkley, if you had him in your fantasy championship, congratulations.
And you know what? I think they should just let that be the high point for his year and just sit him next year to get him a little extra week rest going into the offseason. Don't risk any setbacks with his ankles. I think they should absolutely do that.
Giants get the win in Washington, 41-35, conceding a draft spot to the rival Washington Redskins. I believe, is Washington now set to pick second?
Yes.
So it's
by losing, they win.
Cincinnati first, Washington second, and
Giants third.
Giants third, which means Miami's probably fourth.
Yeah.
At the moment.
Because I saw things that said Miami will probably end up in fourth or fifth.
Yeah, that's depending on how things play out next week. The final 2 games were maybe more surprising, although Cowboys-Eagles one didn't surprise me at all week. Everyone was writing off Philadelphia, and I was like, this is exactly the game that they end up winning. I did not have the balls to do it in the pool. I wish I did. Although because we're in Philly country, this game was split anyways because there's always going to be people that always take the Eagles. There's always going to be Eagles fans that never take the Eagles. And then you're going to have the same thing from the few people that are Cowboys fans. They either always take Dallas or they never take Dallas. So this game was pretty evenly split. Although I think more people probably did take Dallas just by a few. But I texted my dad. I was like, "Aren't you watching?" And he was like, "I'm watching. Just haven't had anything to say."
I don't have anything to say either.
As
much as I'm going to enjoy this, and it's great, because I want to look small picture here, which I guess gets into the big picture. I think it was ridiculous all week that everybody's saying this is the game that Carson Wentz has to win. You know, he has to win it. Like all that stuff. They literally said this morning. They're like, well, what do you? I just think he needs to do what he did what he did last week. And Sal Palantonio's like, so you're telling me he has to be perfect? Because on the last drive of the game last week, he was perfect. He was 8 for 8 on an 11-play drive, ended in a touchdown. All that stuff. He's like, so he needs to be perfect. And the guy's like, yep, you got paid the guaranteed money. He does. I'm like,
that's right. I completely agree.
That's not how that works. But I said this to people before the game. I'm like, okay. That's not my mindset. This is not make or break Carson Wentz's career on this one game. However, if you're going to be in that boat, and all those people were picking the Cowboys, which I picked the Cowboys. I thought they were going to win.
Yeah, but you're one of those Eagles fans that doesn't ever pick the Eagles.
So if we do that, though, then,
except when they're playing the Dolphins,
then if they win, and if he goes 31 of 40 for 316 yards and a touchdown, against a defense that just shut down the Rams last week. And he's doing that with Greg Ward as his best wide receiver. And without your right tackle, without, with Jason Peters, who's basically, it's like this Hall of Fame statue is playing left tackle. Like that's about the amount of movement and quickness we've got over there. Jason Peters is a great player. He is a Hall of Famer. He does not play like a Hall of Famer anymore.
Just like Tom Brady.
Yeah,
Yes, stick
exactly.
the needle in there.
But then I'm like, all right, now all those people who are saying like he needs to get it done, I want to hear him this week. I want to hear him say he got it done. I want to hear it. On the other side, because when people are like, well, no excuses. Well, Dak was out there and his receivers were awful. They had 6 drops today. Wow. 6 drops. Now, you know what else I don't feel bad for? Wentz has like that. He had that in like the first 2 weeks. He had 6 drops. Like they had so many drops early. The only reason the drops have stopped is because those guys aren't playing anymore. Our top wide receivers are all out. Like, oh my gosh. I'm thrilled. The run that the Eagles have been on, I think, is huge, regardless of if they can win next week to finish this out and to make the playoffs. I think it's huge. The ability to come back-to-back weeks against the Giants and Redskins to win those games, and then to go into this game where, like you said, no one was really giving them a shot. And they were able to get it done against the Cowboys. The way the defense, they gave up 9 points to the Cowboys. Like, how do the Cowboys not score a touchdown in this game? Like, I don't understand. And Sidney Jones coming up with a big 4th down play to knock the ball away, that's incredible. Guy that got benched early in the year because he just he never developed into the guy we all thought it.
Yeah, right. That he
thought he was going to be regardless
with his
right.
injury.
But like, you know what? They needed a play from him, and he made the play.
Yeah.
That was awesome. And then Miles Sanders, man, coming on strong the last month of the season. He has been great. And went all Brian Westbrook and could have scored a touchdown. Like, he could have run that in for a touchdown at the end, and he slid down so that the game was over.
Right.
Instead of scoring and
still allowing the possibility
in
of something
theory,
crazy
right,
happening.
yeah. But
right.
he just slid and ended the game.
So,
like, that was awesome.
And I know it's sweeter because it's end of the season. It's right before Christmas. It could end up being the nail in the Cowboys' season. It all depends on next week because with this season for some of these teams, who knows?
Right. The Eagles needed a 4th quarter comeback to beat the Cowboys in Philly 2 weeks ago.
So the last game is definitely, I think, the most surprising one. And that was the Cardinals. No, we're refreshing here. That's good. Cardinals over the Seahawks, 27-13.
Yeah.
And bigger. So, a couple takeaways here. 1, wow. 2, in Seattle. 3, Seattle lost 2 of their best defensive players, not named Russell Wilson.
Yeah, this was a nightmare scenario for the Seahawks. They got really banged up. They lost in a game where they were fighting to potentially be the 1 seed.
Pretty much out of the question now.
Right. I think they need the Saints to lose and to beat the Niners next week, I'm assuming. And I don't know if that would still get it done. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. We'll have to see those scenarios kind of laid out for us.
I don't know that that's even enough because I just looked at the tiebreaker scenarios, and unless there's a 3-way tie, head-to-head does matter for seeding. Because we were talking how we didn't think head-to-head worked for some things.
Okay.
We know it works in divisional stuff,
right.
But head-to-head is one of the top tiebreakers.
Okay.
And the only reason it wouldn't is you throw it out if there's a round-robin effect. So, like we were talking about 49ers, say...
49ers beat the Saints.
Say the 49ers
beat the Seahawks.
But if one of the teams beat the other 2 teams, then you do use head-to-head to determine, because then that team would be the higher seed.
Right.
I don't know if all 3 teams have played each other, but
I feel like they have.
And I don't even think that's not even updated correctly. They still have the Seahawks at 11-3. They're 11-4.
Right. So they're at 4.
So
they play the Niners next week.
Right, they're at 4 losses, right. And they play the 49ers next week. That can get them to 12-4. So they could, I guess, win the division because they would have the head-to-head tiebreaker.
Right, they would have the head-to-head tie.
But they can't jump the Saints or Packers, depending on if they win tonight and then next week as well, they couldn't potentially jump New Orleans or Green Bay to the 1 seed, which they could have done if they would have beaten the Cardinals today.
You're
They
right.
would have had that opportunity.
Right.
I don't believe they have that opportunity anymore. The highest they can get now is probably, I guess they could get to 2 depending on what
Right,
plays out tomorrow night and next week with Green Bay. But
But okay,
This is-
so
that was
this
a
is
big
this is me
loss.
getting ahead of myself, considering I said a few minutes ago that I wouldn't put it past the Eagles to lose next week to the Giants. Eagles hosting a banged up Seahawks. Like, I'm not saying that
or a
they'd be-
Vikings team with Kirk Cousins who hasn't won a big game yet.
I don't. Can you imagine for Vikings fans if the Vikings
To go
had to
back
come
to Philly?
back to Philly, and if the Eagles beat them? Oh my gosh, it'd be a nightmare scenario. But I feel like that would play out. The Vikings would win, and everybody would be like, "Oh, they got their revenge." No, like the Eagles won the Super Bowl that year in
Well,
your
this is-
stadium. That's not revenge.
That's the Penn State syndrome for the Vikings. Then, if the Vikings have to play in Philly, people are gonna be like, "Well, you should beat the Eagles. They're not that good." But then when you beat them, they'll be like, "You should have beaten them. They're not that good."
Well,
Or you lose to them, and what
Well,
are you doing?
I wore the underdog, the dog shirt last week because no matter who comes into Philly, Eagles are going to be the underdog in that. If the Eagles can make
You
it
would
to the
think,
playoffs,
you
they
would
would be
think,
the
yeah.
underdog going into that game.
Yeah.
Unless if the Seahawks were to be that team and Russell Wilson got hurt next week or something like
Well,
that,
yeah.
like that could create a scenario. But short of that, they're going to be the Eagles. If they make it, would be an underdog.
So the Seahawks lost Chris Carson for the season after losing Rashad Penny in the last week or 2 weeks I believe for the season. Didn't he have surgery?
I think so.
They also lose Dwayne Brown, their starting offensive tackle for the season.
That's the big one.
So Seahawks are limping to the end. They're a team that generally finishes strong. They're not a team you want to see at the end of December
So-
or in January. And right now, it's rough going for them.
I know the record isn't necessarily there, but you look at the division. It's no joke. Kyler Murray has had a sneaky good year.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of they got some wins. They got some wins that weren't expected to get. But also, I feel like he's gotten better.
Did he
and-
go out injured today though? Because Hundley was playing at the end.
He might have.
Hundley was playing at the
He
end.
might have. But coming into today, he had over 3,000 passing yards and over 500
yeah, I mean,
rushing yards. Like
Because
doing
of the
well.
way other teams are playing, other teams in the division are playing, and other rookies are playing, he's not getting a ton. But you're not also hearing, "Wow, was he an awful pick?" You're
No.
not. He's kind of in the shadows, which is a good place to be for a rookie quarterback.
great place to be.
So yeah, I'm interested to see what he's able to do next year. Now to wrap it up, I've had it up for a little bit. This is the playoff picture as it stands right now. We talked about it a little bit here, talking about the Seahawks and Eagles as they would be playing at the moment. The 5 at the 4, Seahawks at Eagles. The 3-6 would be a rematch of tomorrow night's game, Vikings at Packers. In the AFC, it's Bills at Texans. That's the 5-4, and the 6-3 is Titans at Chiefs. Currently, right now, your 1 and 2 are Baltimore, and New England, respectively, and in the NFC, it's San Francisco and New Orleans.
Sign me up. I'd like to see those games.
They look like interesting games to me. Lots of blues and reds in the AFC.
Yes.
Much more color, a larger color palette in the NFC. So it's interesting to see because even with the Ravens, because they're a purple, it's so close to blue that it kind of all blends in together there. Imagine if the Ravens were like purple and red, you would have a really close to.
the Ravens should wear their all blacks.
Hey,
I like
whatever
those.
works. So
The Rams wore their white jerseys with the white and blue helmets, which are my favorite ones.
Yes.
That they have. I wish they would have worn the white pants. Wore
they're
the blue
due
pants.
for new uniforms, I believe,
Yeah.
this coming year, like like 2020.
See, to be honest, I feel like they should hold off on their new uniforms till they get their the stadium. But somebody talked about this. You want to talk about a team that's at a crossroads, maybe. I mean, they paid their quarterback, they paid their running back, so they've got a lot of money tied up. They have no first round draft pick.
Right.
They are about to go, like their new stadium is running behind on construction, and could run $4 billion over budget.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
And to think, only $3 billion of that's taxes in
and
California.
they lost, and they lost. Yeah, they're out of the playoffs already.
Right.
So somebody's like, so other than that, things are going grand
Things
for
are
Stan
going amazing.
Kroenke.
So, talk about a Super Bowl hangover.
But like, yeah.
Ooh. That's all the time we have. All right. But yeah, so not great in LA right now at least for the Rams. Chargers not looking great either. Remember last year everyone's like, "Man, football in LA."
Just hate to see it.
You just hate to see it West Coast. Sorry. Speaking of which, you'll be in Denver. Have fun.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about the game starting 2 hours earlier next week.
So yeah, well, Penn State game Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm planning on having a show next Sunday.
10 a.m. Penn State football game for me.
All right.
That I can't say that's ever happened for me before. So
And a full slate of NFL games on Sunday. Right. All of them on
and the
Sunday.
Playoff game, the college football playoff
And the
games
college football
next Saturday,
playoff
too.
games are next weekend as well.
Sign me up.
Good football weekend leading into the new year. I will be back next Sunday. I don't know who will be my co-host. I'm going to work on a few things.
Depending on how things go, maybe I'll try and call.
Yeah,
not,
maybe
not the co-host, but like just call.
Right,
comment
yeah,
or something.
yeah. Get especially if we get a Penn State win and some interesting NFL games.
Yeah, if there's good news, expect to hear from me.
Count on a call.
If Penn State and or Eagles lose,
probably won't hear much of you.
Yeah, I'm going to turn my phone off so you can't call me.
Okay, fair enough. So, again, I mentioned it last week, but happy belated to my dad celebrating a big one this past week. I'm sorry that you couldn't get a win this weekend, but I mean, and the first thing I'll say tomorrow is like I didn't expect much from them after the way the season looked. It's not as though he thought they were going to win the Super Bowl this year. So
no.
But you don't ever want to lose your rival, so he's definitely going to be upset about it, and I'm sure he's fuming and is once again fully on the Garrett must go bandwagon. So.
Right. No, it's one of those. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. I am fully enjoying the Eagles win, but in this particular instance, with this particular Cowboys fan, who is having a reason, who has, for the most part, always has the reasoned response or the reasoned reaction to the things. It's not as much fun as opposed to like if he had been like sending me through you messages all week about how the Cowboys were going to destroy them, and then they don't. Like that would be more fun. Like, that would be more fun.
Those are the best.
But when you have even if they win, they're not that good. Well, yeah, I know, but like that's not the point.
It's all context.
Right.
All context.
That being said, go Eagles, beat the Giants, help them out. We're just trying to help the Giants out,
right,
by letting them stay in that third spot.
All right. Well. Hope everyone has a wonderful Christmas and enjoy the holidays. Happy Hanukkah started tonight, so big holidays coming up now, soon, and right after. So enjoy time with friends and family. Enjoy the holidays. Merry Christmas, and I'll be back in a week for episode 290. So for Justin Raffoff, this has been the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. We'll talk to you all next week.
Go Birds.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live
on Facebook Live
and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter, and stay up to date with the guys at joemaysandjraff.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.